what exactly is executive presence to you, and how important is it as managers, mid-level managers move on to becoming CXOs?
The interesting thing is, at least in my career, in my profession, we haven't had to make the transition from being a manager to being an executive in terms of presence, right? I think one of the most important principles which we followed in my previous organization, and I'm proud to champion in my organization, is something called a non-hierarchical approach. And then I'm very also clear to caveat it, right? It doesn't mean that there are no hierarchies. It just means that when you're in a discussion, everyone is equal. And if you have a point of view, you should state it, right? And if there is no right, you have to not state a point and then complain about it later, right? So when you don't contribute to something, then it means that you agree to everything which said, and then you can't later say I didn't agree with it, right? So for us, I think we are actually trained from day one to speak our minds, right? In fact, there's a very consultant language for it. It's called obligation to dissent, right? And in fact, in our profession, we actually measure our people on it, right? Is this person high on obligation to dissent? Is this person low on obligation to dissent, right? So for me, one of the most important elements of executive presence is actually to ensure that your point of view is heard, while you listen to other people and have the ability to, I would say, incorporate their feedback. And for me, it's a little bit of trade-off between two extremes, right? One is an extreme obligation to dissent, where you become the classic argumentative Indian who's saying no to everything. People don't like leaders like that, right? To the other extreme, which I call the compliance mindset leaders, right? People who are saying yes to everything, right? They're saying yes to their bosses, they're saying yes to their team members, right? I think one of the biggest shifts you have to make in executive presence is having the right balance of obligation to dissent and also the openness to change your point of view, and sometimes show compliance, because there may be someone who knows more than you or who knows better, just because that person has seen something. So for me, the trick about executive presence is to know that you are someone who is not afraid to speak their minds. You are someone to take leadership and take control of a situation. But at the same time, you have the humility and the ability to listen to your team and correct yourself when you're wrong, right? And by the way, I've seen this in great institutions in India as well, right? One of the things which fascinates me about companies like Reliance is the pace at which they do things, right? And they don't do it at a pace because they are brilliant, or they have people who have 200% IQ of someone else, or they eat something different, right? I think what they do very well is that once they've agreed on something to do, I don't think any single person in the organization doubts the mission, right? And everyone is 200% committed, right? And the leadership of the top at the top actually demonstrates and showcases, right, this entire, I would say, role modeling, which is important, right? But also, what is important I've seen in companies like Reliance, right, is that when they make a mistake, right, they also course correct very quickly, and with that same energy and enthusiasm, they will within a month do the exact set of opposite things which they did the previous month, right? And I think you need to have adequate executive presence to be able to inspire your organization to completely move from left to right, right, within a matter of time. And that will only happen if there's a healthy mix and obligation to dissent and openness to listen, openness for ideas, right? So that when course correction happens, you can build the similar conviction in your team members. So again, I don't know, this is what you called executive presence. For us, we've never had to make the journey, right? To be successful in our profession, you need to have executive presence from day one, right? Otherwise, you would be weeded out of a consulting firm if you're the quiet person on the side, right? So again, for us, it's been a little bit easier to cross this bridge.